And a very good afternoon to everyone who's present. Uh, I hope everybody is had their lunch and not very drowsy. Okay, so the topic for today, what I wanted to discuss is the pathological cases, and we see nowadays the kind of cases we see in practice. They are not simple anymore. Sometimes I even think the cases which were so called as incurable cases by Hahnemann, those who have been treated by a lot of allopathy, we are actually trying to treat such cases. And it becomes like a very challenging task for us when there are multiple disease mixtures in a patient. Lot of history of suppression, lot of history of other diseases, and the whole process is how to analyze these conditions. Also, when I see that after any seminar or lecture, students usually come up and ask questions that, doctor, we have this particular condition, it's a case of a cancer, case of a rheumatoid arthritis, how to go about it. So what I understand, and from my own experience I can tell you, sometimes just by the name of the disease we are too scared. And even the thought that, okay, just a passed out student or somebody with very little experience in practice, will we be able to solve this kind of pathologies? Can we do justice? Are we doing something right, wrong? I think all these kind of questions come to us. Because we have large number of students today attending, I would really request you that if you feel that any case is challenging, please take help of some senior doctor. And what you can do is learn how to manage these cases with them. So once and like slowly, when you start treating one or two or three cases, experience will come, and then it will come automatically that you will be no more scared of the potencies and the repetition, and you will know how to take care in chronic and acute conditions. So today, before starting, I thought let's go back to the history and maybe let us try to see, are we missing any link um, over a period of years, maybe since the homeopathy has been introduced by Dr. Hahnemann. Have we missed some point? Are we focusing in only one direction? So, trying to understand him, what I realized myself is that there is very less literature that is available. Actually, in reality, Hahnemann's cases and his letters, there's a huge collection of this literature, which is very protected in Germany. There is a place where it is kept. But in his lifetime, Hahnemann himself did not publish lot of things because there was a lot of criticism also at that time. His every theory was a new theory challenging the old theories, and sometimes the homeopaths themselves were not ready to accept the new theories coming up. For example, when he introduced the chronic miasms, right, the theory of chronic miasms, there were many homeopathic followers who flatly refused to believe in any of this theory. So this one person, Rima Hendley, she has done a very good research. She went through all the source information that was available, many cases of Dr. Hahnemann, especially in his later life when he moved to Paris and when he had his practice in the old time, in his old age with his second wife. So she has done a lot of research about this, and it has been published in many articles, books. And one of this is In Search of the Later Hahnemann. And I would really want my dear friends to understand that maybe we are missing a point. Maybe our focus has become, we are just focusing in one direction and missing many things. So very interestingly, it is I'm directly quoting from the article which is there from In Search of the Later Hahnemann. So after studying the whole literature, she herself says, with a small number of remedies he had at his disposal, Hahnemann would rarely have hoped to achieve the prevail of what we would now call as an exact similimum. Meaning, even at that time, when Hahnemann himself proved remedies, there are very few remedies that were proved, maybe 100 around that time, right? And slowly new provings are coming up. So at that time, to find that right similimum, maybe it was too difficult at that time. And now we have around 4,000 remedies. So it's becoming more easier for us. We have provings which are more wide, more clinically, we have a lot of data. So we can use this information. So what I want to try to tell you that some of us are stuck with the concept of, the similimum in a case. And the minute they study a case and then they come to a totality and find a remedy, then they just want to stick to that remedy. I want to tell you, when our father Hahnemann himself, maybe because of lack of medicines at his time, could not prescribe the similimum, and all they had to do is just to use the whatever limited remedies they had. I think what we are trying to achieve is too ideal. We have to try to go as much as to the similimum that is possible. Okay, and with real genuine effort. That doesn't mean we don't take a case properly. We do hard work. We try to reach to the similimum, but the next thing will surprise you more, and that is here it's said that however, Hahnemann did not appear to use such diagnosis in the helping prescription. He prescribed largely on the basis of pathological symptoms, and the patient's physical pathology was taken fully into account and not regarded as subsidiary. So this is a problem that happened with homeopathy, that with the new schools that coming into place, the Kantian school coming into place, lot of focus only went to the mind, and this concept of constitutional remedy or a drug pictures came up, and we started losing our focus from the pathological symptoms or the pathological process on which actually Hahnemann himself prescribed largely. And this is very surprising because he was the one who introduced, he was the one who said that a mind and the body has to be uh, studied together and prescribed. But when we see his prescriptions, he has used so-called mental symptoms only in the most important cases, especially if that mental symptom was a disease symptom or a symptom of distress. If it is a normal habit or a personality type of the patient, he has not considered these symptoms. Okay, so many of the homeopathic prescriptions by Hahnemann himself were based on pathological symptoms. So that's what I want to tell you, that when we see today, many of the clinicians, their approach will be sometimes pathological. They will try to understand the disease process, and there will be criticism. People might say this is not a classical homeopathy or whatnot. But I think this is the time where we have to learn from each other, respect each other, whatever style anybody follows. If we could learn a little bit from each other, I think instead of criticizing the schools, we could be together as homeopaths together, especially in these difficult times. And I think we are getting a very good opportunity also, like opportunity in disguise. In this COVID, we have the opportunity to prove ourselves, right? So what I want to tell you, many of the prescriptions were pathological. So keep this in mind. So it is said that, however, neither of these prescriptions were specific or symptomatic prescriber. He was not what we might derogatory call a pathological prescriber. So you say, oh, he gave on pathological symptoms, so he's a pathological prescriber. No, he prescribed on mentals, physicals, generals, or particular of a wide variety, but only when they were prominent. Now try to understand. That means in a given case, there will always be lot of mentals, lot of physical, lot of particulars. But it becomes a habit when we are in college that when we do a totality, we just simply take all the rubrics and combine and make a big totality of 10, 15 remedies. That is what we don't have to do, but choose from the case which are the most prominent symptoms, and they need not be in the mind all the time. They might be in the general, they might be in a particular symptom. Okay, so what we call the keynote prescription, it could be those, but that is the whole point, that when we analyze a case, we have to try to understand what is the most prominent in the case and pick those symptoms. So it's said that symptoms such as desire to commit suicide, sometimes this kind of symptom like just bloody stools, uterine hemorrhage, or paralysis of single part were all capable of being used as a guiding indications to the remedies. So maybe some prescription were just based on this particular symptom of paralysis of single part. Okay, maybe something like a plumbum, where every other symptom of the mind was not matched. So my dear students, friends, what I want to tell you, I will be showing my cases today, and it will be interesting to see that how the approach is completely different in many kind of pathological cases. So it's not always the same approach. And more than anything, so we all know already, okay, we all know what we have to do. After a case, we have to analyze and make a totality, right? We all know this. There's nothing surprising about it. What I want to share today is something, even though we know, we tend to miss. And let us focus on those things today. Like, what are the things sometimes we miss when we hear them, we miss when we analyze them? So let us see that we don't make this kind of mistakes. And so the case taking and analysis becomes more particular. So the first thing, which I think is very, very important, and we might be making a little bit of mistakes here, is when we look at a symptom. For example, let's understand the most common modality, which we love when the patient has a rheumatic problem, that aggravation from the first motion, right? Very common modality. We tend to find in many kind of rheumatic patients, right? And many of the joint problems are usually better by warm application. Why? Because it leads to decreases the stiffening, helps little loosening of the stiffened muscles and the tendons. So many of the joint problems are better by warmth. Many of the joint problems are worse by first motion, right? So every time we hear a symptom, it's not by this just symptom we will be doing the prescription, but we have to understand what is the anatomical structure also involved. For example, if we understand this particular modality of better by motion or pressure, or sorry, warm and motion, then we have these four common remedies. For example, we have Rustox, we have Ruta, we have Calcarea Fluor, we have a remedy called Radium Brome, and all of these have this modality. Now what to do? Here, when we only hear the symptom and when we forget the pathological part or the anatomical structure that is involved, we may make a lot of mistakes. This we should avoid. For example, let us study from this example. So if you see this rubrics, motion aggravate beginning of, we can see Calcarea Fluor, Rustox, Ruta, Radium Brome. For example, if it is a Rustox, right, with the same symptom, the issue here is with the fibrous tissue, the ligaments in the joints causing rheumatic symptoms. So what you have to understand, when somebody comes with the arthritis of the knee with this kind of modality, if it is a Rustox patient, there is no problem with the joint itself. Like there's no problem with the bone or the cartilage, but this is the problem of the tendon. So when you even examine it, you see a lot of tenderness around the joint. Okay, you see a lot of tenderness around the joint because the problem is with the fibrous tissue of the joint or the ligaments. Similarly, if we see another remedy, that is Ruta, what you see, this remedy also has affinity for the fibrous tissue, okay, just like Rustox. But added to that, it has another added advantage that this particular remedy particularly works on cartilages and periosteum. Try to understand this. I have chosen these things particularly from Phatak because Phatak is one book which gives you a broad idea about the remedy, not the exact symptom maybe with every part, but a general modality, general composition, general constitution, general mental makeup, something what we know as a genius, which I'll describe later. For example, if we study Ruta, we understand being a remedy which acts on the fibrous tissue, it also under cartilages and periosteum. Now you have the similar problem. You have a same patient with arthritis, and on the X-rays, the reports if say there is depletion of the cartilage is getting worn off, or there is inflammation of the periosteum. With the same modality, aggravation first motion better by worm, maybe the choice of remedy should shift here from Rustop's to Ruta. Are you with me? Take the same example. Let's go to the next remedy, Calcarea floor. See what Phatak says. Again, it's a very good remedy for the fibrous tissue, the elastic fibers. But it has a tendency. It disperses the brony, goes the osteosarcoma and the exostosis which are caused after injury. That means Calcarea floor has a tendency to dilute the calcium deposition. It has a power to dissolve your bony structures. So now the same pathology, same patient coming with the same problem, but now on the X-rays you'll see lot of exostosis, extra bony growth, or you'll see there is osteophytes which are more, and then there is depletion of the bone or osteoporosis. So now the disease is going deeper. You understand, from the Rustop's only affecting the tendons, we go deeper to Ruta with the same symptom but affecting the cartilage. We go deeper to the bone with Calcarea floor with the same symptom. And next, what we will see is radium brome, where you can read here, radium brome is very effective in skin and rheumatism. And if you read radium brome, it has just symptoms like Rustov, which is better by hot, warm and hot bathing. So a very good rheumatic remedy with lot of gouty pains. But can you read here what is said? Necrotic changes, effects of the X-ray burns, removes the nevi, moles, ulcers and cancers. So now the disease process has gone more deeper, where it has the capacity, radium brome as a remedy has a capacity to now cause necrosis. It can cause damage to that extent that it can lead to cancers. With the same modality as Rustop's, this is what we have to understand, that the pathological process with the symptom, the organ and the pathological process. I think at a student level, we tend to miss this. So next time a case comes with lot of destruction or rheumatoid arthritis case with lot of tissue destruction, and maybe we'll still give Rustop's. A very superficial remedy, maybe it needs a very deeper remedy. Are you with me? So always with the symptom, don't forget the part and the depth at which your remedy has to penetrate in the patient. This is one thing we have to focus. The second is, when we see a disease, the pathological process, we have to understand the pathophysiology. For example, let's take another example of a common symptom, maybe constipation. Okay. So if we understand constipation here, we have many important remedies. Like we know alumina is one of the strong remedies. Bryonia is a very common remedy we use. Nux vomica in wholesale we use. Opium, right? These are very important remedies for constipation. And they can cause a very worst kind of constipation actually. But how to understand what is the difference between this constipation? That is only by understanding the physiology or the pathophysiology that is going on because of this particular medicine. For example, I've chosen here Boger's repertory or Boger's materia medica, to tell you the importance of the pathophysiology. So Boger and Phatak both go hand in hand, where they specify mostly on the disease process, the genius of the remedy. Okay, now when we read about Illumina, you know, can you read here? It says it has a specific sphere of action on the rectum. Okay, but what it does there is it causes the paralysis of the rectum. So Illumina being a very paralytic remedy, it causes paralysis of that part. So what happens, the Illumina stools will be soft, but still the person has to strain a lot to pass those stools. That means there is good amount of collection of feces, but there is no power in the rectum to expel them, and that's why the patient has to push and throw the soft stools out. So this is the cause for Illumina constipation. For example, if we understand Bryennia, then you can understand here it says Bryennia causes dryness everywhere. So the main thing that Bryennia causes is dryness of the mucous membrane. Okay, and that is why the entire gut is dry. So you'll see rubrics like the stools are stony hard or dry and collected in large masses and very difficult constipation. But the whole problem here is the dryness leading to constipation. Are you with me? The symptom of constipation is same, but with Illumina, it is the paralysis of the rectum leading to the constipation. With Bryennia, the dryness leading to constipation. Let's go to the next remedy maybe, and it is Nux vomica. So let's understand how Nux vomica causes constipation. For example, Nux, it is said that it has a violent action, often irregular, fitful, or inefficient, increased reflexes. So basically, everywhere in Nux vomica, it is just increased reflexes, but there is no pattern. They are irregular. So something like, you must have read terms like reversed paralysis or irregular paralysis. That means the paralysis which was happening at a proper rate, this abrupt impulses that is sent to the intestine, and that's why there's irregular contraction. So what happens, the patient suddenly feels the urge to pass stool, and by the time he goes to the stool, there is a relaxation, so he doesn't feel the urge to go anymore. So here the constipation is because of the lifestyle one, the sedentary lifestyle, meat eaters, alcoholic, lack of fiber, and the other problem here is that kind of irregular peristalsis that leads to constipation. And the next remedy, if we see opium, then it says it's paralytic atony of the bowels and the bladder, hard tympani, bowels feel obstructed, constipation, stools are hard, black balls. Now this is one step ahead of Nux. So Nux led to irregular peristalsis where opium leads to complete paralysis. In Illumina, it was just the rectum. In opium, it was the complete intestine that goes in paralysis. So what you see, stools are usually collected like balls, which has a shape of the intestine. So they are collected balls. So if you examine, there won't be any bowel sounds that you will be hearing, or it can lead to abdominal obstruction or pathologies like that. So understanding the pathophysiology after a remedy or after the symptom. So behind the constipation, what is the cause? This is very important. So behind the symptom, what is the anatomy is very important. Behind the symptom, what is the pathophysiology is very important. Sometimes, even though we choose the right rubric, we forget to see the deeper aspect. That is why I'm just focusing on the things which we tend to miss as students. Okay. Another thing, very important, I think this is one thing which I really learned from Dr. Sarkar, seeing cases with him. And I saw how beautifully he just connects the mind and the part together. So the emotion and the organ affinity. So what used to happen and what usually happens is we understand the mind beautifully, we understand the body beautifully, so we take a lot of mental symptoms in details, we take a lot of physical symptoms in details, but somewhere we forget to connect them together. And while analyzing, we will analyze them separately. This is a point. If we could correct here, I think this can lead to greater success, and the rate of success is going to very high. For example, let's take this example of anger as an emotion and its effect on the organs. Okay, I'd like to talk here about a very famous physician, a classical um, physician. What we had is Adolf Lippe. So they say was the one of the master prescribers so far in the history of homeopathy. Okay, and going through his cases, you understand that many times very bad acutes, very bad critical cases are solved so beautifully just on this principle where he has connected the emotion and the organ. So I would like to tell you a case. So here there was a case uh, where the lady had a lot of gastroenteritis problem, lot of pain in the abdomen and vomiting. And she was a lady who was nursing the child. And then he realized that the complaint started after anger. Okay. Now, ailment from anger, maybe we will think of remedies like Tefisagre, right? We'll think of remedies like Colocynth, right? A remedy causing lot of colic. But now, Dr. Lippe going one step ahead. What he realized on examination is that there was a lot of tenderness, particularly the liver region. So the whole abdomen was affected because of the pain and the discomfort, but particularly the liver region was little swollen and little tender. So now he connects these two things. One, ailment from anger, and second, the part that is affected by the anger. Now this is the individualization. The anger affecting a particular part in your body. If the anger affects your pancreas, the remedies might change. The anger affecting your gallbladder, the remedies might change. The anger affecting your liver, the remedies might change. The anger affecting your respiration, this is your individuality, that why anger had to choose that particular part in you. Are you with me? So in this particular case, so if you say just pain, liver region, anger, aggravate, if you go to small remedy repertories like tension repertory, you will see pain, liver region, post anger, and the remedy was cocculus that he chose. Or swelling of the liver region post anger, the remedy chosen was cocculus for the case. So what I am trying to tell you, from the whole 8 remedies, just by pinpointing the organ and the emotion, he could easily choose cocculus from this whole group of remedies, right? This is what is missing in our practice. We understand mind separately, we understand the body separately, we forget to connect them. If we could connect them, there's nothing like that. And the results will be amazing. So the individualization, as I said, so somebody might have headache from anger and the remedies will be different. You might have convulsions from anger and the remedies are different. Are you with me? So if you have stomach pain with anger, the remedy is different. You have convulsion with anger, the remedy is different. You have headaches with anger. But if you just take, in this case, ailments from anger as a separate rubric, and then you take headache as a separate rubric, then you somewhere miss the link. Try to find if there is one rubric that connects your emotion and the part together. So there will be some repertories like that. For example, there is a repertory called Nair repertory, which usually helps to give this kind of symptoms, Nair, Knerr, where the mind and the body is connected. So you can, if there is a very strong cause, mental cause leading to a pathology, you can choose similar repertories to find this kind of rubrics. Okay, so now we have seen, let's just revise what we are doing. We are looking at the things which we might miss in the analysis. We understood that even if we have a symptom of aggravation first motion, common for Rustox, Ruta, Calcarea, Radium Brome. If we look at the anatomy, the part affected, then we can easily choose the remedy. For example, in case of Rustox, it will be tendon. In case of Ruta, it will be cartilage. Most likely, in case of Calcarea floor, it will be exostosis and bony pain with the same. And in case of Radium Brome, it could be a very degenerative process like osteomyelitis or cancer of the bone, osteosarcoma. So the disease is deeper. This we don't have to forget. Secondly, we understood with the same symptom of constipation, try to understand the physiology behind it. What a remedy is capable of doing to you. So for example, if it is bryonia, the constipation is because of the dryness. If it is opium, the constipation is because of paralysis. If it was Nux vomica, it is because of the atypical irregular peristalsis. And if it is alumina, maybe it is because of the paralysis of the rectum itself, where you have to press to even pass the soft stools, whereas the symptom is the same. Thirdly, what we understood is matching the mind and the body symptom together. For example, a lipase case where anger caused pain in the liver, when both were considered together, then the only remedy that comes is cocculus. So never forget the part in the emotion. The next topic point which we could miss or which we have to focus is sometimes the pathology when it is presented very atypically. That means a rheumatoid arthritis is supposed to affect the small joints of the hands or the larger joints. A gout will affect your toes. But if a gout affects a bigger joint, then it becomes an atypical presentation, right? Something like that. When your pathology has an atypical presentation. For example, if look at this rubric, it says eruptions, ringworm on the tongue. Now we have never heard something like that. We know ringworm usually will happen in the groins or the places where there's a lot of sweating. But when the same pathology ringworm happens in an atypical place, maybe on a tongue, then that symptom becomes very important. So for example, you can see here Sanicula or Taraxacum remedies, ranunculus scleritis. So different remedies coming up which you will never focus otherwise. So when the pathology, when you expect it is not there and it is unusually seen, this is also where you have to focus. And another important point before we start the cases, because I want to show you cases where all these principles will be applied. Okay, that's why I want to just brush up that how we can see a case and which point we should not be missing. And one point I think is missed most of the time in prescription is trying to understand the genius of a remedy. Now, genius is something which runs through and through the whole remedy. Okay. For example, if I tell you get a chocolate cake with a cherry on top. So what happens when you see the cherry? You will simply get the cake which will have a white icing, but below the white icing, you don't know whether it's a chocolate cake or a pineapple cake or a mango cake. Are you with me? So just looking at the cherry, what do you mean by that? Just looking at the keynote sometimes, which looks very interesting, we might forget the base of the case. So just getting carried away by the keynotes only and forgetting the whole essence of the patient, we might do very easy prescriptions which might work at sometimes, but if you don't understand the base, then it will fail. So if you just look at the cherry and you pick up a cake, it might turn out to be any cake. But if you understand that whole genius of the patient, so what is the genius? A genius of a patient or genius of a remedy when you study is usually the organ it affects. Which organ it affects? The pathological type. By acting on that organ, what it does. For example, some remedy might cause atrophy by working on that part. Some remedies might cause hypertrophy of the same part, right? Some remedies might cause destruction, cancer of the same part, as we discussed. So what is the pathological type? What is the pace? Is it a fast acting like aconite? Is it a slow acting like bryonia? What are the general characteristics of the remedy? What are the general exciting factors of that remedy? Also, in a patient, the personal and the family history, the general modalities, the general type of the patient. Is it more irritable person? Is it more mild patient? Is it more yielding patient? Is it more restless patient? Just a general understanding. Okay. And any kind of common sensations which are felt. So when you study a patient also, try to understand. So don't try to just treat. If somebody says that I have a pain in the left cheek, for example, if somebody says I have this kind of pain radiating this side, just going to that rubric and seeing those two remedies, in what if it has only one remedy, and just choosing that remedy, it doesn't work. You have to understand what kind of patient is this. Is it a fat patient, thin patient? What is the temperament of the patient? What are the diseases that is suffered by this patient till now, right? So by general understanding, when you choose a remedy, that is most likely give better results. And I think in initial practice, we all miss to see the genius. We only see the characteristic symptom because that is easily available in our repertories, but we forget the entire picture. So this should not happen. When we focus on a part, we don't have to forget the cake. Okay. So when you focus on the cherry, don't forget what cake is it. So when you focus on the characteristic symptom, don't forget the base on which the characteristic is built. So, for example, if you consider Baryta, what will be the genius of Baryta? A Baryta will be slow, so dwarfish, stunted growth, physical or mental both. It's a glandular remedy causing a lot of hypertrophy or induration, hardness of the glands, right? So this becomes the genius of Baryta, the slowness, the dwarfishness, the glandular affection, the induration. This becomes a genius of Baryta. If you understand genius of Ignatia, maybe something like hysterical, changeable symptoms, like sensitive, oversensitive to external impressions. This becomes contradictory symptoms, becomes a genius of Ignatia. So like that, when you study every remedy, try to understand not only the characteristic symptom, but the soul of the remedy, which is called a genius of the remedy. Okay. So I think with this general background, let us start with a case. Okay. I hope we all are ready. Yeah. So a very interesting case, a girl 20 years of age. This case, my cousin, she's a homeopath, and she was anyways treating this particular patient. And she has it's a case of eczema. So she has bad eczema on the legs, which she has for a couple of years. And it was not getting better. So so we had a Skype session. So what is interesting, try to understand, the doctor has organized a Skype session with me so that we look into the case. And the first thing I ask her when she's there, what is your problem? And she laughs and says, no, I don't have any problem, you know. So, so things which come up very spontaneously in a case, or especially very early in a case, just try to observe them. That doesn't mean smiling will be a rubric. I'll be taking it as a rubric. Or well says when sick. You know, some rubrics like that. I'm not gonna convert every symptom which I get into rubric, but I'm just trying to understand the general pattern of a patient. The special Skype session is kept on, and I ask her what is her problem. She says, I don't have a problem. I just understand the casualness with which she's talking to me. Are you with me? I'm trying to understand the patient. I see that she's an obese girl, 18, 20 years old, smiling, cheerful. and she denies to have problems. So then I had to ask, oh, this doctor said you have some skin problems, right? So tell about that. So now she talks about it, where she says she has eczema, particularly in the lower limbs. And when it started a couple of years back, the onset was sudden, and suddenly she developed on her left foot. Okay. And so whenever she scratches it, it leaves yellow discharge. So anyways, the eczema is dry but discharging water. So you can see some droplets over it most of the times. And especially when she puts some hot water or warm water, she is better. The itching goes for some time. And what happens? The wound or the eczema oozes first, and wherever the secretions touch, then she feels more itchy. So whenever it gets wet, she feels more itchy. The discharge was thin and sticky in nature. And what was another interesting thing was that her discharges or the skin complaints were worse before menses. Sun would also cause a lot of itching. So whenever she went out in the sun, the itching of the feet would be more. And the eczema was worse in winters. And being a Goan, whenever she went to the beach, if there was any sand touching it, it made it worse. So I'm trying to understand the chief complaint. So okay. So what next? So trying to understand past history. There's no major past history, but I just understand that she tend to have a lot of dryness of the skin. That is one thing she always had. Family history, grandmother has diabetes and no other illness in the family. Her nature. So I try to understand her nature, and she says that she is a very emotional person. She cries very easily. She has one sister, and she feels jealous about her. People praise the sister more and her less. She's like, I liked rain dance. I like comedy. I don't like violent movies. And but sometimes her anger could be violent, where she tends to throw things in anger. And she's scared of animals, or she doesn't prefer animals. She has fear of dogs since a dog attacked her. So again, coming from a 18-20-year-old girl, I'm trying to see if there is something that stands out, something which is peculiar about her, and trying to understand her personality. I'm trying to understand, is there any issue there? And I see there are no major problems as such in her life. She talks about small things, like she'll talk about this rain dance, some comedy, some uh, little fear of animals. Nothing that stands out. Okay, so far from it. One thing she has fear is fear of height and fear of falling. And she also gets this dream that she's falling from a height, and she wakes up with a joke. So this is one important fear for her. She craves for noodles, spicy food. She likes sweets a lot. Sweets sometimes aversion, sour, perspiration on the face, lips around, menses, sometimes angry before menses or mood swings before menses. Menstrual, no complaints. She's ambithermal, and she is, sleeps on her abdomen. Yeah, written stomach, abdomen. So yeah, so this was the case. That is her. You can see the picture. That was the eczema that was there. This exuding of fluid. That was a, and then within a couple of months it started drying up, and now it's been a year, and it's completely okay. Yesterday only I asked my friend, actually sister, to send me the pictures. There are recent pictures which she sent yesterday itself. So the case, let us try to understand how to understand this case. Okay, how to understand this case. So any suggestions? Would you like to share something? Would you like to type some suggestions maybe?
Okay. Natramure or Argentinitricum.
Natramur, argentum nitricum, okay. And
the animal kingdom, graphites, petroleum,
Okay.
um, graphites. They
Pet
are telling graphites actually.
graphites. Very good. So, congratulations. We are on the same page. I think the day is no far where homeopathy is gonna rock. So basically, we all are thinking, we are at least trying to understand the case in the right light. So what was interesting, so the approach that was used in this case is to try to understand the entire genius of the patient. So not only one part I focused on, but try to understand the whole a person. So for example, now eczema getting worse in winter is something which I can understand, but eczema getting worse in sun is not heard of. So first rubric which I take is sun aggravation. And then typically the skin getting worse menses before is a very peculiar modality which I felt. Any kind of skin itching better by warmth, which was not a very strong symptom, but better by warmth was still a very common symptom which I felt, but something which was worse in the sun and worse for menses. So these are my first two modalities which I took. In the eruptions which are discharging yellow, or the eruption discharging acrid and corrosive discharge, which tends to excoriate the surrounding area. Eruption discharging thin and moist. Fear of falling, what she has, which is even she sees in the dreams. So she has dreams of falling. So it became prominent for me. Trifles ailment from aggravate. So there's nothing big in her life, small things, some comment, some criticism, some reprimand can affect her. So trifles, small things affect her. And the general build of her, very obese person. Now try to understand. I have not prescribed graphites because it is a skin case. Understand this first. Not just because it is a case, because next remedy is sulfur that comes up, or maybe many other remedies will come. Natramur, some people say, very good. But why was graphite chosen? Because I need a remedy. So you think that is, so you need to find a remedy for a patient who is obese, who has this kind of childishness in her. When I'm asking her what's her problem, she says, I don't have any problem. When a Skype is specially fixed for that. So I say very easy or a little childish hint in her. Then I know that she has complaints of dry skin. Now when the eruption is there, that eruption is worse before menses and sun. And with this kind of person who has a strong fear of falling, and there was nothing more important there. So just trying to understand everything together, trying to understand the whole genius together. This is a classic totality or understanding the entire genius. A remedy which suits a fat personality for a skin problem with this type of discharge. So here from this case, we can understand a simple genius of graphites itself. So graphites is a classic for skin conditions which are dry, thickened skin with cracks. So cracks is also very important genius of graphite. It was not in our case, but cracked skin, the discharge are thin, sticky, yellow, and mentally very childish or excitable, anxious, but trifles, small things, not big things. Small things will give them stress. Some small, like the cook did not come today, or they hear that we won't be water for a couple of hours, and they can get extremely panicky or nervous because of that. Small things. Fat and chili. So that is how you understand the genius of graphics. Are you with me? So this was a kind of first prescription, a pathological case where the approach is a classic totality or a classic genius approach, right? Let's move on to case 2. So this is a case of psoriasis. Let us see if the approach is same or the approach changes in this case. Okay, is everybody with me? Can we start? Okay. So let's start the second case. So this is a case of psoriasis. A girl actually in her, she's just like this 20s, and she has psoriasis for quite some time, 6 7 years, when she had come actually 5 years back. So she was suffering for 5 6 years, and typically it started between the eyebrows. She had some couple of patches on her neck, she had on her elbows and hands. Okay. And the eruptions are typical. There's redness, dryness, itching, and peeling, scaling of the skin. And these things are worse in summer or sun. Okay. Now, what is interesting is this person whom I treated was a nun, or you call it, Sadhvi. She was a Jain Sadhvi. So she doesn't live with her family anymore. She has left her family and she has moved to the ashram where she serves. So her history goes like that her father was a drunkard when she was small, and she used to have, not that he would come and beat, but I don't know, she was always very scared as a child, and there used to be problems between the father and the mother. So she saw a lot of marital problems. She saw there were problems with the neighbors. Every time people giving bad words and fights, and she felt sometimes I don't need this, I don't want this kind of life where people are just trying to put each other down or trying to just abuse each other. So she felt that this was too much of painful life for her, and she would want a peaceful life. So at the very young age, when she was hardly 12, 13, she decided she will leave the home and went to the ashram. So at very young age, she became a sadhvi, around 14, 15 years. And she always wanted this peaceful life where she felt when she's in ashram, she feels this kind of peace. So her nature, she weeps easily, very sensitive girl. But whenever she had one brother, but whenever she would fight with the brother, sometimes the anger was too much. And even now, she's not directly in touch with them, but she talks to them. And whenever she is very angry, she had shown anger to that extent that she has broken the things. Like she'll throw the thing, she'll break the compass and stuff. So otherwise, very quiet, calm, nun personality, but she could get this fits of anger. So she has, so let's understand her fear and dreams. So she had this some fears, particularly of snake, because she would get dreams of snake also, and dream of snake, and then she will get up scared, and she'll get palpitation, and she'll wake up with a jerk. She'll get very frightened up. So, and she was always scared of the snake. The fear they will bite her. There was always fear somebody will kill her. It was a very vague fear. So there was no particular like as a person or an animal or a ghost, but the fear is somebody will kill her. Now this was there always. She also was scared of whirlpool, sea. She was scared of. So once what she had seen, she saw there was a boat that was parked, and then it got sunk. There was some problem with the anchor, and the boat sunk. So looking at that, she was so scared, and since then she was scared of water. So every time going to the water, she was scared. Now, always whenever she's scared, she tends to get a lot of palpitations in here. She had this very interesting dream. In the dream, she would see her teacher, her guru, who is dead actually. The guru would come in her dream, her teacher, and the guru will bless her, and the guru will tell her the path which you have chosen is the correct one, and make progress, walk on this path. Okay. And what was her experience? So she felt that I felt when that guru comes and blesses me, I feel kind of freedom from all kind of worries or pain. She says, otherwise the world, there is no peace. There is only worries, a lot of pain and trouble, and there is no peace. And when she sees this guru, she feels a lot of freedom from this kind of pain and worries. So this was the case. Now in the first case of skin, we had some very peculiarities about the discharge and the type of discharge. In this particular case, we see the common symptoms of psoriasis. Now, when you see psoriasis, then you will see a lot of itching and dryness and peeling is common. Except that you see psoriasis typically is worse in winters, but hers would be worse in summers. So this is one modality that is important in her physical. But other than that, the entire case moved around her mind. Why? Because even though we all feel there's so much of trouble in this life and study and homeopathy, we don't live and become nuns, right? So the thing is how everybody copes up differently with the situations. Nobody will take such an extreme step. But when she herself took this extreme step, you try to understand that this must be a very important issue for her. And trying to understand that what is it that what she felt that I want this kind of peace. I don't want the pain. Life is full of pain, full of misery, and I will need something like a peace of mind, calm. Then we see another pattern. Okay, I missed one more thing. So there was one incident when there was a boat and she saw the boat sinking and she was scared. There was another incident that happened with her. Sorry, I recollect it now. That she had gone to some mountains and there was a landslide, and because of that, the car stopped uh, somewhere in North India, and the car stopped on the slope. So what happened? The particular car she was in, the handbrakes were not pulled properly or something. The car started going backwards. And again, since that episode, she was extremely scared to travel, and especially the hilly areas. That she was scared that some kind of accident should not happen. So, one thing that comes up again and again is this desire for peace. She wants some peace, some calmness. She doesn't want pain. Another thing that comes up very strongly is every time she is scared of something, the fear remains in her. And next time she doesn't do it. For example, we all know that if you go on a bike, there could be accident. That doesn't stop us from doing it, right? But her fear remains to that extent that she will stop doing that particular thing. That means the fear of that particular fright remains in her for a long time. Any guesses? I think now the remedy is very clear.
Lots of medicine suggestions are came up.
Lots of suggestions. Okay.
Our
All are
lachesis,
welcome. As I said,
lachesis,
everybody is through lachesis. Yeah.
carcinosin, nicolam, stramonium, clinging to guru,
Which
harmony,
one?
desire for stramonium,
Stramine. Okay.
argentine nitricum, opium, harmony, desire for natramure, magnesiums, opium, then magnesium. I think finally everyone was telling about only opium.
Okay. So different suggestions. Nobody right or wrong. Try to see it holistically. Okay. So I'll just share how I did it. Maybe it was your case. You do it some other way. You're most welcome. There's no one way which is right. I'm just trying to share you how I analyze the case. Okay. So coming back to the analysis, as few of you very rightly said, so the rubric that was taken was mind tranquility, serenity, or calmness desire. So the whole point was that she felt the world was full of pain and suffering, and she wanted something like a calm peace. So there is a rubric like this: tranquility, serenity, and calmness. Second, very important, is the fear, fright after. That means when you're scared, the fear remains with you. After the fright, the fear remains with you. And it can remain for a long time. So when this kind of thing you see in a case that when somebody is scared and after that they completely stop doing it because the fright remains, to remove that fright, we know opium is one of the best remedies. So opium again, fear of being murdered. It's somebody, it's a vague fear she has that somebody will come and murder her out of nowhere. So fear of being murdered, the dreams of snakes, and the fear of snakes which she has. So typically, those who are young practitioners, I'll tell you, many times if you don't get a rubric under fear, you can take it in the dreams. You, for example, if this patient has dream of snake, and if I don't get opium under dream of snake, but if I get it under fear of snake, I'll take that particular rubric. So the dreams, the fears, the delusions are understood at the same level. Okay. Sleep waking, jerks from, so wakes up with a sudden jerk. Palpitation from fright, so every time she's scared, a lot of palpitations. Rage, fury, so this calm personality is also one very aggressive side where she breaks things also. So, and the sun aggravation. So basically, another pathological case, the approach is mostly focusing on the mind in this particular case, and one general, that is sun aggravation. Okay, so if you see particularly skin eruption, sun aggravate, you might not get opium. But if you take a general rubric like this, sun aggravation, opium being a very hot patient, you will find opium. So in this particular case, the whole approach was to understand the mind of the patient and to solve this pathology. Similar pathology, skin conditions, in first case, the whole totality or the genius was understood, whereas in the second case, only the mind. Why did we choose only the mind symptoms? Because they were the most prominent in the case. Are you with me? So if you have the habit of just forming a totality with mind and physicals and generals, we have to stop doing this. Because what happens the minute we just go on adding symptoms in our repertory, especially the computer repertory, make it very easy. You can just go on choosing rubrics. You will end up with polycrest. You will never find a small remedies. Okay. So if this in this totality, if I just put one craving, one aversion, just because it is there, it will hold no good. So this was the case where the psoriasis got much better after treatment. And this was one case with a very long follow-up. It's been 5 years actually. And she is doing very well. Only once or twice she needed repetition in first or second year. After that, she has not been repeated again. There was also very interesting learning for me in this particular case. When the opium was suggested, at one time she took an extra dose, like she repeated it often, and the skin worsened. And I was suddenly like, how is this skin getting worsened and she was better? And then I realized that she had repeated herself. And opium in a low potency killed the aggravation. This was one particular case where I have done that. Instead of stopping, I tried to give the same remedy in a lower potency, and it helped her aggravation. Okay. So next come to the third case. Sorry, I have problem with calculation. So this is the third case. We saw two cases of skin. The approach is different. One was holistic, genius, trying to understand the whole genius. The second was focusing on the mind because that was important in the case. Let's try the real problem in our life. So what kind of problems can happen? So this is a case of a woman. She's 36 years old, and she's a maid in somebody's home, and she has this problems of recurrent throat infection. So very often she gets throat infection. This is in childhood, but nowadays, since last couple of months, she is getting it very, very frequently. So every 15 days she has a sore throat. And what triggers is a house dust. So being a housemaid, she can't stop working because she has to be exposed to the dust, right? And whenever she has anything cold also triggers her. If she travels out, it triggers her. So the tonsils are extensively swollen, okay, and extremely painful. A lot of difficulty in swallowing any kind of food, and occasionally while coughing or something, this blood also comes from the throat, okay. And feverish with the infection, she tends to get fever with this problem. Okay, so now this particular patient came when the treating doctor was actually not available. So she was a charitable case and the doctor was not available. So what I'm trying to tell you, if some patient comes like this in the acute with the acute sore throat, what are you gonna do? So the option is I could just take only her throat symptoms and prescribe her, right? Which we ideally do. If it's anything acute, we just stick to the acute and prescribe. But what I realize is that the acutes were coming too often, too quickly in last 2-3 months, every 15 days. So, and I know she was being treated by somebody. So I know that we were missing some point. We were missing some point in this. So I gave a little more time and sat and understood her history, that what kind of person she is, what was her temperament like. So her life space goes like this. So she lives in somebody's home full time. She is the eldest in her family and she is unmarried. She's 36. Her real father, uh, biological father, left her when she was small, and she has a stepfather. And this particular new father treated her very badly, and she always felt that she wanted to be treated like the own child, but they never treated her well. So the new father or the stepfather was very partial towards the other sibling or his own children. So at one or two times she felt so bad because they would hit her also physically that she even tried to commit suicide by drinking poison. They would hit her and she'll bear everything. But even today when she was here away from them, the whole stress in her life was that they are not accepting me, they are not loving me, the stepfather is not loving her. That was her main problem in her life when she was not even living with them anymore. But that was the only grief in her life. So trying to understand her more, she craves vegetables, she likes spicy food, she doesn't prefer non-vegetarian food. She's a hot patient, perspiration mostly on the face. Menses are regular. It starts with the spotting and then goes on for 9 days. The menses usually, the stain remains and they are offensive. She tends to get pain in the breast before menses, very sensitive to touch. She also gets calf pain before menses and acne, pimples before menses. Her appetite goes low before menses. She has no dreams and she has fear of water. So, my dear friends, those who are new in their practice, this is a kind of cases you will see. Ideally, a patient might come to you in an acute. So there is one symptoms of the acute state, like the tonsils are swollen and there's difficulty in swallowing and extremely painful, and then there is a whole constitutional picture. And new people who are new in practice, they always struggle that what to do now. Do we try to find that one? Ideally, we try to find that one remedy which covers the both, ideally. But it might not work in all the cases, that what is whole, true for the whole might not work in the acute. So what to do in this case? So what happened is that so what is the thing? I thought very logically that right now she has throat pain. There are some symptoms of the throat. Let us understand. So I took only her throat symptoms separately. What I am trying to tell you here is many times when the pathological cases come, when a part is diseased and the disease part is showing symptoms. For example, if it is a liver problem and this liver is atrophied or hypertrophied or cirrhosis, and if there are associated symptoms with the pathology, try to take the symptoms of the pathology and repertorize and study them, because you might need something called as a drainage remedy in those cases. Because in such cases, sometimes giving a constitutional remedy might not help. So make this habit, whatever the chief complaint is of the patient, without adding the other symptoms. For example, if it's a case of heart, If somebody has a mitral regurgitation, with murmurs, with some problem with ascending or descending or whatever, especially with heart related, just try to study the heart symptoms together. Just look at the remedies. Don't have to prescribe. Just look at the remedies which come up. See if there is any peculiar characteristic sensation, if you can find at the local level, at the chief complaint level. If you can find the characteristic symptom at the chief complaint, I think that should be your anchor. Okay. So how not to miss small remedies? You will see many big clinicians, they will always choose very small remedies which you will never ever think of, and we always think, oh, how do we do it? We never get this remedy in our totality, we never even think about this remedy. Simple. Stick to the pathology, take the characteristic symptom of the pathology and study. When I say take the characteristic symptom of pathology, don't put all the symptoms of the case together. Just the pathology, the most important. So if it is a mitral regurgitation, just open that rubric and study the remedies. If there is murmur, study these remedies. If there is a typical constricted sensation, just chest pain, angina, constricted sensation, just study this remedy and keep these remedies as a backup, because in acutes you might already know what to give if you have studied the pathology well. Okay, so what I did in this case, let me tell you the approach. So I thought, because there was a doctor who was already treating her and he was doing good, I understood that there is an acute state which I'm not able to match with the chronic. I am understanding her chronic state, I am understanding her acute state, but I am also understanding there could be a block. Like why a somebody's good prescription is not working in this particular case. Okay, so what I did, I just took the symptom totality of her throat. So throat pain, sore throat, recurrent tonsils, so recurrent tonsillitis, right? Dust aggravation. She had also swelling of the neck externally because of the sore throat. So neck swollen externally. Try to understand, I've taken very common symptoms maybe here, okay? Throat hemorrhage, that she tends to bleed from the throat because of the swollen tonsils. What was interesting about this? Sorry, I missed a point, that it was worse by warm drinks. Warm drinks would make it worse. We all know any throat pain, first thing we drink is hot tea or warm drink, but in her case, the warm would make it worse. So I took throat pains, drink warm, aggravate, and she had this follicular, pustular points on the tonsillitis. So I took the common and the characteristics, whatever was available, but only the throat. That was the acute. I had to, because this was recurrent. Okay. So I gave her Lacasis. So Lacasis worked partially. Okay. It helped her for some time, but then there was a problem. So, and at that time I was ready for my next remedy, and that was streptococcinum. This was a nosode which I used. So basically the sore throat is usually caused by the streptococcal infection. So when she had this infection for a long time since childhood, I realized somewhere the infection was becoming too dominant on the vitality. So you had to give a nosode for that particular infection. So the nosode chosen was streptococcinum for her as an intercurrent. And I tell you, after streptococcinum, Lacasis again started working, and eventually when the episode was better, her acute episode went down, I put her on her constitutional treatment, and that was magnesia carbonate. So this complete feeling what she had was very interesting. She has a stepfather, okay? And I have never ever heard or known somebody trying to, please the stepfather or step parents so much and want them to feel like the real parents. So this kind of feeling of forsaken or unloved feeling, maybe because her father left her, was very strong in her. So the first rubric that I took was forsaken, unloved by parents, by friends, that you're not being loved by them. and a mental kind of despair, this hopelessness about the whole situation. Her general physical like vegetables desire, meat aversion, menses offensive, eruptions before menses difficult to wash off, mammy pain menses before, and face perspiration. So this was a totality with her general constitution. Are you with me? And this was a totality with only her throat. And this was a remedy that was needed as an intercurrent. To see, because every time you give a remedy and it was not working, there was a block, and the block was a streptococcal infection which was becoming too dominant on her system. So streptococci prepared from streptococcal bacteria. Indications usually for it is repeated sore throat. Anybody who has a tendency for sore throat, and if we have given you Baraita, if we have given your all kind of remedies for your tonsillitis, your lichiasis, your Baraita, your Phytalaka is failing, and you don't know what to do, but you see it's coming again and again, think of streptococcinum as an intercurrent. It might help. Chronic diseases started after the, or you can see many times typically seronegative arthritis. So if you have arthritis now, but in the past 4 months back, 2 years back, there was recurrent sore throat, which led to the poisons. The streptococci, the coccal poisons, toxins could lead to tissue damage. And now, if there is a rheumatism that develop, again think of streptococci as an intercurrent. So it is an anti-febrile, it is a remedy to kill the fever, septic symptoms in infectious diseases, rapid immune action, especially its effects on temperature. So even in acutes, it will act very beautifully. Okay. Do we take a break now or we continue? What is the time?
I think, ma'am, we can go for the question answer session. We have many doubts from these 3 cases itself. Okay.
Okay.
It's been around, we have around 10 minutes more.
Okay. What is the time now?
Now it's 3:22.
Okay. Okay. Fine. I would like to answer the questions. I'll just finish with this Tyler's keynote and then I'll take it. So Tyler very beautifully said that, you can see here, the parasitic nature of chronic diseases and the fact that remedies homeopathic to this primary manifestation must be called upon as powerful intercurrents if real progress towards cure were to be achieved, and all this many years before the microscope began to confirm him in regard to parasitic. So Tyler has rightly understood what Hahnemann called as chronic miasms, that nothing but they were infectious nature of the disease. So what Hahnemann said that, considering the most ancient type of infection, any kind of skin infection or a scabies, if that was suppressed, then that doesn't mean it disappears, but it grows within you like a chronic miasm, and next time any stress comes, it will show its effect. Okay, because the parasite, so like that, when a streptococcal was there for a long time, it remains dormant till the time the stress comes. So in this case, it is also said that, you can read here, certain diseases, this is beautifully said, certain diseases such as smallpox, measles, true scarlet fever, venereal diseases, the itch workers in the wool, the canine rabies, whooping cough are caused by peculiar contagium of tolerably fixed character. These are so fixed in their course as they will always be recognized. What she says, certain infections will always have a very fixed course. Like for example, measles, this particular kind of range for particular days. We know the picture. Whooping cough, we know the picture. Corona maybe, we know the picture. So she says, when in case of infectious diseases, when a picture is known, we must have a specific for them. They can be named and we can endeavor to lay down some fixed methods of treatment suitable as a rule for each of them. So we can even have very fixed. So this is the only exception when we are talking of fixed remedies for a particular disease. Homeopathy is all about individualization, right? But when a disease process is very similar, they say such diseases could have something like a genus or something like a very fixed couple of remedies which could be used in these cases. Are you with me? Are you understanding? This is the
Yeah.
only where individualization is contraindicated. Take the common symptom of the remedy and think of 2-3 remedies which might be indicated like that. So she said the chronic infections are semi-vital infections of parasitical nature. The myasms are of parasitical nature, which only can be neutralized and antidoted by a more powerful remedy producing analogous effect, which could also by treating them isopathically. So if you know if any particular infection has caused history, you can actually give potentized medicine of the same remedy or the same organism to cure it. Okay, so this is a rule that is always given. And lastly, she says, for instance, a man during his occupation experiences frequent and constant pressure on the bone. If he suffers from some latent, once acute, now chronic infection such as syphilis, he develops a syphilitic necrosis. For example, 10 men are sitting and one of all 10 are getting, there is a friction if there's with the occupation, if there's a pressure on the bone. Only those who have a syphilitic background or who had in the past, he says, this is the chronic miasm. Any miasm he had in the past might develop a syphilitic necrosis. Another, in apparently perfect health, experiences a compound fracture. Somebody who looks apparently okay, maybe like me, apparently okay, and meets with a fracture, the bone refuses to unite and the wound to heal. First is examined and the organism of typhoid is found. He may have enteric 30 to 40 years previously. Now he says another apparently normal person meets with an accident. Bones are broken, but the bones don't heal. Why? Every bone should heal after the fracture. This bone doesn't heal. Why? And when you check the pus, maybe that bacteria, this typhoid, which he had 30 years back as a latent miasm. This is the story of miasm, that when you're treating present, think of the past, look into the past, what all infection he had. So when I was looking at a current patient with a streptococcal, understanding her past history that she had repeated streptococcal made me give streptococcal. Okay, so see that latent miasm that is going through. Another example he gives, a knock on the breast or a pressure of a pipe stem, instead of being easily or speedily dealt with by a healthy organism, indurates, proliferates, result in carcinoma. If there is injury to the breast, for example, let's understand conium, it has this indication, right? Why every injury must end up in a cancer in a particular case? It ended up in a cancer because he had a predisposition. Why? Probably because some of the latent chronic condition, once once upon a time, which was an acute disease, never wholly recovered, which Henneman expressed as a chronic disease. So any acute happened, that's why we take a past history in details. Any acute illness, if patient has suffered majorly because of that, think maybe your today's disease roots are 20 years back, 30 years back, even 40 years back. Okay. Yes, I think I can answer to your questions.
Yeah. I think that was an excellent session, ma'am. A very inspiring sessions, and there are three different approaches were mentioned. So I request my doctors to be focused on the case. So kindly don't ask the further doubts from another part. So in the first case, frivolous or says well, he is sick is not considered.
Pardon?
In the first case, says well when he is sick is not considered. Why?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It is not the aim to convert every patient's rubric, says well, feels well when sick. That is also when somebody is sick and you ask, are you suffering? Are you feeling? No, I don't have any problem. That is a different kind of state. Here, I felt it was a kind of, a very naive, very childishness when she's not understanding the intensity of her problem. Where a session is kept specially for her, you ask, what is your problem? No, I'm okay, no problem. Very easily, very childishly, she did it, right? And it is not important actually which rubric you choose or why did you choose this particular rubric. As I told you, always consider the whole also. If you want, you could take this rubric, no problem. But is your remedy matching the entire thing? Is your remedy covering the obesity, this type of discharge, this type of dryness, this type of personality? Then you may give it. May it be any other remedy. If you can find some remedy which is closer, maybe more better than the graphite which was in our case, why not? We should. So what I'm trying to tell you, picking one particular, because this happens many times, doctors say, and they say, I took this. No, it was not anger, it was rage. Somebody says, no, it was not rage, it was anger violent. I don't believe in this rubrics, first of all. I understand any mental rubric is just an expression, call it a anger or rage or anger violence. It just shows a personality type that somebody has a tendency to produce anger. I will choose a remedy which has tendency to produce anger. Are you with me? I will not go in a detail, oh, that anger was rage or violence. I will not do that. I don't know to do that, maybe. There are people who might do it. I don't personally do it like that. So I try to generalize. So, for example, like the second opium case, the skin words in summer was not there. That's why I don't throw opium out, because the personality is matching like opium. So it has, in general, it has some aggravation. So I choose that. It also doesn't mean you choose the remedy after finding a, finding the remedy, rubric after finding the remedy. It just means, see a case, try to choose the most important things in the case and study them. Repertory was built to give hints. Nowadays, because our knowledge of materia medica, including me, everybody, I feel, exceptions are true, is very less. So what happens? We are only dependent on that rubrics. So we don't know the materia medica, right? Hello? Yeah, so basically because of that, our focus only was on choosing the right rubric. That is important, but also understanding the whole. Repertory is a mean to just give you a hint, guidance in the case. So take it as a, take it like a GPS map. Sometimes you're going, the shortest distance is straight, but your GPS tells you take a left. But the shortest distance is straight. Why is the GPS? To give you a hint. You know your roads better, then you just take the guidance and walk how you want. So repertory will just give you a hint. You cannot remember 20 remedies together. So it just gives you a hint. It helps you to remember these remedies. Then check with the materia medica. Then check the other things. And then prescribe. So
Oh,
uh,
okay.
every fact need not be converted into a rubric form. And secondly, I did not think it was like, when I asked her, she denied, no, I don't have any problem. It was not like that. She was too childish or naive to understand the intensity of that session. That somebody should be eager, yeah, doctor, I have this problem. And what is the problem? No, I'm okay. Very childish. That's why graphites were chosen. That very not very deep, very superficial personalities, very anxious, restless, excitable personalities, uh, not very strong, hard, not like very hard, strong matters like aurum, big sense of responsibility, duty. All these issues will never come. For graphite, small things excite them, small things will make them laugh or cry. It's like that. So I understood that from the personality.
Okay. Please mention about the potency and repetition in given in each case. So many people have asked.
Okay. So especially in graphite's case, it was 3200 1M. So basically, when this actually learned from Dr. Sarkar, Dr. Tyler also used to do that. Uh, so there are doctors who give, there are basic guidelines how to give potency. According to Hanuman, always start from the lowest potency and see the result and go up higher. I was just reading few days back how Herring would prescribe, and it says that he would give 6 doses. Only the first dose was a real medicine, and the other 5 are placebo. And the powders had to be mixed in water and taken 4 spoons a day. And after 1 week, he would ask, how are you? If partially better, he would step up. So if he has given 30, he'll give 200. And if not better, he will restudy. If there's no change at all in acute assignment or whatever improvement he expects in that particular time, he would restudy the case. So basically, the principle is to always start from the low potency because high should not cause aggravation. But in cases where I feel everything is matching, if I feel my prescription, I'm confident about my prescription, okay? I don't know others, but when I feel I have done justice, I have found characteristic, when I say I have matched the genius, I think the pathological process is matching, that I want a remedy for skin, I am giving a remedy for skin that kind of discharges, I'm pretty confident about my remedy. I don't want to give a direct high potency sometimes because it could cause severe aggravation and we don't want that to happen. So 30, 200, 1M is a way to step up the potency. So first day I'll give 30, second day I'll give 200, third day I give 1M. So that's how you prepare the body for a high potency. It is not a rule. You could, if you are confident about your 1M, you can directly give 1M. But especially in skin conditions, fearing the aggravation, I give. So in the first case, it was 30, 200, 1M. In the second case, opium, it was 200 that was given. Again, with the fear of aggravation should not happen. The more you see cases, now I realize high potencies work better in skin and you can actually give high potencies. So now I'm little more confident. This was 5, 6 years back. So opium 200 was given at that time. And when the aggravation happened, opium 30 was repeated. And which is the third case? I forgot. The Licasis one, right?
That is,
So yeah, so for the streptococin, again, streptococin, you could give 30, you could give 200. Ideally, no sort should be given in high potency. So something like streptococin 200 was given. Meccarb based on the general, so Meccarb was a high potency like 1M. In Licasis was again 200 that was given for acute because there was a characteristic of warm aggravation. If there was no characteristic and only local symptoms, I would have given Licasis 30. But because there was a characteristic of Licasis that was present, I give 200.
okay. But the second case of graphite, the case of graphite is patient showed her mental symptoms as jealous and comparison which shows she is from animal kingdom. Then how you differentiated from the kingdom then?
Yeah, because the whole approach, I told you my approach, right, in the cases. Doctor, what you are asking, everybody is able to hear the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, if somebody had jealousy with the sister, why animal kingdom was not chosen? Again, somebody who knows the sensation method will tell you just by one emotion, you don't come to a kingdom, right? So uh, if you want to use sensation method, it has its own ways in which it has to be used. Again, there has to be a complete pattern that has to be seen throughout the case. The issue of competition and jealousy and me versus you, this hints. And the whole issue is that somebody is troubling me in my life. This hint you should get. The whole stress of one person is some another person troubling them. Okay. Now, this could be fact also in real life. No, if a mother-in-law comes and tortures the daughter-in-law, for example, and if she's telling me she tortures me, she abuses me, if we are sure with every story it becomes animal kingdom, it doesn't become. So not situational. In her office also, she'll feel the boss is troubling. In the friends also, she said this other friend is trying to put me down. So you'll find that hint everywhere. Only then it becomes a case of animal kingdom. Here, the approach was not that. As I told you, in the graphite's case, I felt there were interesting symptoms of her skin, so those were chosen. Her personality traits, those were chosen. Her general build, obesity, that was chosen. And a holistic prescription was given. And I felt graphites matched with the energy of the patient. Right? In the second case, when I could have taken the cravings and general, right? Everybody has cravings and general. I could have taken that, but that approach was not used. In second case, in the case, it was understood that only mind is the most important. So I have studied the mind, confirmed and realized, yes, this is the energy of opium. You know, the whole point of opium is what? It's extreme of pain and painlessness. So we give opium in coma when there's a complete death-like state. We give opium in this extreme pain also. So there's two polarities of opium. So like this in the patient also, this whole world is too painful and I want peace. There were the two polarities in her case, which is the sensation of opium family. I did not go into detail of sensation because first of all, that approach was not there. But even if you understand in sensation way, it will be helpful to understand opium.
Okay. In the second case too, the fighting between parents were there. That won't be considered. Why? Magnesium is not. Why not magnesium considered for the second case?
Second case was what? A opium case, right? Right. So basically, fighting of the parents is a situation. Try to understand. If anybody's parents fought in the childhood, that is a situation that doesn't make anybody magnesia or less magnesia. If your parents fight, it's a fact. They are fighting. That doesn't mean every child with fighting parents will become magnesia. Okay? Some people might become extremely rebellious. They might become mercurius also. So, if the feeling in the whole situation, whether your parents are, if your parents are godly, they are not troubling you at all, but still if you feel a feeling of being unloved, then that is magnesia. That is the feeling of magnesia. The situation doesn't affect. So no matter your parents are fighting or they are very quiet people, but if you internally have a feeling of being unloved, then you are a good candidate for magnesia. So in the first case, even though her parents fought, her feeling was not that I was not loved or unloved. Her problem is what? Peace and pain. Are you with me? Her sensitivity is that this life is too painful. I want peace. Did she say I lacked love of parents? If she felt that was her issue, maybe we could think of magnesia. But her issue itself is this whole world, life is painful. I want painless, quiet, serene environment. That was her issue. So don't get, again I'm saying, people who are new, that's why I started with Hahnemann's example. Don't get carried away by stories. Don't get carried away by stories. Try to understand what is that person's individual experience. So there are
Okay.
people fighting around you, there is a jealousy around you, maybe the person doesn't feel it, that is okay. There is no jealousy around you but still I feel jealous. So try to understand individual perception of the patient, not the story, not the situation. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. I think we are. It's been 15 minutes more now.
Okay. I think I have only finished
Can
half my session. I had couple
you
of
wind up
interesting
the
cases.
session, ma'am?
Pardon?
Actually I'm getting a call actually. So, ma'am, can you end the session?
Yes. So yeah.
Okay.
So
So,
yeah, I think I had couple of cases also. So I was taking you from more basic to more advanced. But I think whatever is done in this session, I hope some points are taken. I hope the way in which you see a patient will be broadened. Next time you hear a emotion, you'll think which part is affected. You'll try to connect the emotion and the part. I hope next time you hear a modality, you'll question from which organ is it coming. Instead of just focusing on that rubric in your repertory, you'll understand, oh, this pain is coming from a cartilage or a bone or a muscle or a tendon. Next time you hear a pathology, you'll ask, what is the pathological process? For example, if somebody has numbness in the feet, instead of just taking numbness in the feet, you'll question, is this numbness coming because of the DVT? Is the blood supply not going there? Is it spasm of the arteries, which will be maybe cecalic core? Maybe it is DVT, it will be more hemamelis. Is it more of a nerve being pressed? Maybe more in the flavor of tellurium or nephralium, right? Or because there is a spinal problem, there's a compression of the spinal cord, and that's why there's a numbness. You'll think of plumbum, you will think of oxalic acid. Are you with me? So you'll not only think about the symptoms, but you'll think from where are they coming? Or is a simple vitamin deficiency, vitamin B12. Are you with me? So next time you see a symptom, try to understand what is the pathophysiology behind. Why is this patient getting? Is it because of a nerve being stimulated? Is the spine being pressed? Is there a local blood supply disrupted? Why? If you understand a patient this way, if you understand the pathophysiology this way, and if you, when you study your remedies, if you study them that way, it becomes very easy, your choice of remedy. So you are not going tangential. You know, if there's a tumor on your spine, pressing it and causing numbness in your foot, and you are giving remedies for local numbness, your spine should be treated first for that numbness to go. So the sphere of action completely changes. So be a little open when you look at it. Every time you look at a rubric, don't jump in a repertory. Analyze, ask, common, uncommon. Is it something which I never heard or I've heard so many times? What is the most characteristic? As Hahnemann said, it could be a pathological symptom. A ringworm on the tongue is the most peculiar in the case because ringworm doesn't happen on the tongue, ideally. Or it could be just the sweat. Your sweat staining brown doesn't happen usually. That could be the most characteristic. Or you get one dream of falling every day for last 5 years. That could be the most characteristic. Just don't be prejudiced. Listen very nicely. See what is most characteristic. Study it. I think, and yeah, we all fail. We all fail naturally.
Yeah.
In the seminars, we don't discuss the failures. We always discuss good cases, which are a little difficult problem. Everybody fails. Fail, get up. Fail more, get up. And we will all learn from each other.
Okay.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
ma'am. Okay,
It
ma'am.
was lovely to share whatever.
Actually, actually many people will don't know that Dr. Amrita had already taken 2 sessions for me for my Kottayam program, and it was excellent. And also, when I approached her again, she agreed for this session, and we are planning for more. Actually, many people had asked when the next session. I am, ma'am. Can I tell them that we are going to make one?
Can I settle in Kerala?
Yeah, you can.
Then I'm ready to come. I need a house there.
So that was an excellent session. Yeah, she's been so kind for us, and she said, you know, we have a very limited time with the Gaurav sir session, and also with ma'am, you spend a lot of time for us, and we keep. As I told you, there are around 450 people, 20 people were there. So we need more lessons from you. On behalf of IHMA Kerala State, I am thanking you
Thank
and
you
all
very
the
much.
doctors.
Whenever
Uh,
you need me, I will try to help whatever is possible, whatever little I know, I would like to share. Just a request, be open to everyone, hear from everyone, have your own thought process, mature it, and someday we would like to hear from you also. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
everybody, good
Okay.
luck, good day.